Chronic Hoosier joining us. How are you doing, sir?
Running late as always, but glad to join. Sorry, I was a little bit delayed. Could not get out of that meeting.
Never a problem. I spend half my life running late.
If I wasn't
Uh,
behind, I wouldn't know where I was at, Jim.
I'm telling you, brother. Indiana, a big weekend up in New York. Obviously, some of it went well, some of it went bad, but nonetheless, they are better for the wear, and we'll use that and move forward. The first game, of course, against a very, very good UConn team, the reigning national champion, and they look every bit as much as good as they would have this time last year, probably better on the UConn side as they roll Indiana. Then they beat Texas as well to win the championship. Indiana then takes on a game Louisville team that gave Texas all they wanted, and then ended up giving Indiana all they wanted until things went the Hoosiers' way toward the end of the game. But um, a fun time was had by all that came to New York, I'm pretty sure, except for those that may have left after Saturday's game.
Yeah, it was good to see them get the win last night. It was good to see them find a way to battle back. What was the deficit? I think it got up to 7 or 9 even in the second half. After I felt like they should have had a double-digit lead to close the half. And well, you don't want to see them let that slip. The decision to switch to zone proved to be fortuitous for him, albeit a little unsettling to some of the diehards. Um, but I think I see this team leaving New York with probably some more concerns than we had before we went there. UConn is a national championship caliber measuring stick, and they were certainly found wanting. I don't know that forebodes terribly well for some of these future matchups. Against whether it be Maryland or Michigan, but especially the Auburns and the Kansases. I think I use guard play is perhaps a little more concerning than what most had anticipated it would be, being some of the most known quantities on the team in Xavier and Trey. It's one of those where there's some pretty glaring flaws right now. The 3-point line obviously being uh, just mind-bogglingly bad for IU still. I think Galloway is hopefully going to pull out of his slump that he's in right now, but it doesn't show any sign of abating. And as we've seen too often already, that's been a massive disadvantage for Indiana. And as you start to get into some more stiff competition here going forward, that result against UConn just seems more and more probable unless they can get some stuff figured out. And I think there were certainly some positive signs in the post, but it's also one of those situations where, and you saw it probably best with Caleb Banks last night. Sometimes the greatest ability is availability, and being available to have your number called, whether it be due to health or foul situations. That's been something that Indiana has shown it can be very vulnerable. Because while Malik Renew is proven to be extraordinarily effective, he's only effective when he's on the floor. When you're sitting on the bench, that's not a winning recipe, and you can pretty much take that down the line with Mbako and everybody else. And that's before you get into the defensive issues. The only reason they were able to get back in that game is because they had to give up on what they wanted to do in the man and get into zone, and really left Louisville befuddled there. And I don't know that that's something that's going to bait anytime soon either, because right now our guards are just getting diced up, and it's just putting them into rotations too early, which is contributing to the 3-point issues. So there's a whole host of stuff for Mike Woodson and his staff to work on with little time. You've got one more game before the Big Ten starts in earnest, 1st of December, and then it gets really quick there for those first couple of weeks. So we'll see. We'll see what they can get fixed, but it's a laundry list right now.
Some of these guys hitting a freshman wall, which I don't even for a wall. Mackenzie Mbako has not even extended it out yet. But even Gabe Cupps, who started out looking really good, has when you step up in competition, that you're also stepping up your learning curve. And so these guys are facing, as I said earlier, Gabe Cupps, Mackenzie Mbako, these guys were playing in high school last year, and they just got done playing against a team that won a national championship. So It is a great learning time for these guys.
Yeah, it's unrelenting and it's unforgiving, and I think it's going to make for a stronger team down the road. Uh, but right now, they got to figure out how you're going to beat Maryland, how you're going to beat Michigan, how you're going to beat Harvard first. Um, it is probably trending more towards where the national prognosticators had pinned this team rather than what a lot of us were perhaps expecting. And I don't think this is by any means determinative of what this team's ceiling is going to be. I think what this shows you is when you bring in this many new faces, when you put guys in new roles, and sometimes that role's even just a captain. I mean, leadership roles that weren't previously assigned that now there's nobody else. That can be a tough transition when you're used to having guys like Trace Jackson Davis, Race Thompson, even Miller Kopp for that matter. There's just been a lot of change, and Indiana is certainly going through some of those growing pains right now and learning how to adapt to it. And I think you see that down the line, and I think that's something that's certainly correctable. But like a lot of things, something that takes time and repetitions and just getting games under your belt and sets under your belt. So I think that the half full side of it is you love to see them face some true adversity last night in a non-home environment and find a way to pull through it. And they got a cover out of it even for the first time this year. So, like I said in my tweet last night, they're making progress. It may not be as fast as folks would like to see. It may not be sufficient to keep pace with the rest of the league here. But there's certainly a road to travel still. And I think the ceiling remains high. We'll just see how close they can get to achieving it fullestly or to its fullest here in the coming months.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because I'm not sure this is an NCAA tournament team from what I've seen so far. There's obviously a lot of season to play. We're just getting underway, but there have been enough things that have brought a lot of things to note that probably wasn't expecting. I didn't expect Indiana to be this poor of a shooting team again. I thought that they would be a little better at the guard position than they are, and I obviously expected a little bit more out of Mackenzie Mbako than we've seen so far from him. So with all of that kind of knocking it down, it's put Indiana in a tenuous position. Although, like I said, we've just gotten the season started, but you can draw some conclusions.
Yeah, looking at the KenPom numbers this morning, Indiana's played one team inside the top 100. That's UConn at number 3. Louisville being the third highest rated team. Actually, KenPom has Wright State one spot above them. But with this small sample size, but getting a taste of what the bottom looks like as well as the very top, you've got an offense that's ranked 100th in the country in efficiency. You've got a defense that's ranked 68, and I'm not in any shape to go back through the last 20 years of KenPom records, 25 years. But I'd be willing to bet you don't see a lot of teams get a tournament invite with that profile right now. And again, I'm not saying that's where they're going to end up, but where they're starting from right now just shows how much work Woody and his crew have to do on these guys if that's in the cards for them right now. So I think that's one of the joys though of seeing some of these younger teams, some of these newer constructed teams is part of the journey and just seeing how much of that potential they can realize. But there's certainly a long way to go in order for them to get there right now.
Yeah, and for a team that did not want to go inside out, their best play has come from the inside with Kalel Ware and Malik Renew. Those two have consistently looked the best offensively, at least for the Hoosiers, and have done a good job for the most part. Kalel Ware was 2 of 10 against UConn, with both of those being 3-point shots. But he has been either high on the rebounding side, and Malik Renew has been scoring, but not always rebounding. Indiana has finally did not get out rebounded by a team last night. They out rebounded Louisville. So there were a lot of positives to take away. It was a game that got scary for a minute, and but Indiana's change to the zone defense at the end, allowing them to just pull away, was a gigantic difference in that game.
Well, and keep in mind too, what you're seeing right now is with a very limited profile available for coaches to scout against us. But what's become glaring, and what you saw, Dan Hurley just nailed us on it. This is not a shooting team, and when our most effective weapons are inside right now, it's going to get increasingly difficult for them unless the guard play can step up and give them some space. Because I think you're going to see teams daring us to shoot it. Right now, Indiana's sitting at 342 nationally in 3-point percentage. There's only 20 teams in the nation that shoot the three ball worse than Indiana does right now, and that's just going to create additional struggles and doubles and triples even for those big guys, unless the guards can find some reason, and not just guards, the wings as well. But unless some of those perimeter players can open up some space, it's just going to get increasingly difficult as teams continue to pack the paint and dare Indiana to beat them from outside. And that's a little troubling, because for a team that was trying to move away from that, you're kind of defaulting back into that position, albeit with the less effective weapons inside, perhaps. So they've got to get some stuff figured out there for sure. And we'll see. I think you've seen Woody right now trying to experiment and see who's gonna step up when those situations arise. But right now, I don't know that anybody's seeing the answers that they necessarily want in that regard.